I guess the downwind bug has definitely bitten. So today I was telling myself I'm gonna go for a wing, you know, the wind's back, and I find myself with the downwind board on the roof, the paddle in the car. I've got the wing as well. Hey guys, Future Lucky here, just putting this episode together. I promised we'd dive into the finer details from the last episode of Tom's Cues, and that's exactly what we're about to do. So first up, I wanted to give a massive shout out to James Casey for sharing his downwind wisdom with Tom, who then passed on those insights to me. So big shout out to James Casey and the Casey Club. I put a link in the last episode and I'll put a link in the description below as well for the Casey Club if you're interested in checking that out. Now, I want you to hang tight because during the on-water segment of this video, I'll be breaking down those cues as a voiceover over the top of the footage. All right, let's get back to it. Basically, it's blowing a really strong northerly at the moment. Reasonable fun wing session normally, strong northerly. Even with a 4 meter wing, a little bit overpowered, it's still good fun. But I'm just curious, so curious about what downwinding will be like, just with a little bit of bump, trying to paddle onto the bumps. So yeah, I'm gonna walk up the beach a bit today. Yeah, just give myself a little mini downwind run and see if I can manage to catch a bump or two, which again need to keep those expectations a bit low. But sort of been daydreaming at work today, thinking about what I could potentially do today. So but yeah, only one way to find out is to go out and do it. So gonna give it a crack, and yeah, worst case, got the wing in the car. I put the 550 in as well, so yeah, worst case I'll test out the big downwind board, the 7'4" board with the 550. Bit of a random combination, but yeah, that's on the cards if I'm struggling a bit too much with the paddle. So otherwise, yeah, be out in the 7Cs 1500, seeing what I can do. I had a really great technique session with Tom Saunders, so big shout out to Tom for putting on a little bit of an impromptu paddling efficiency technique session. It was really helpful, and I'm looking forward to trying out some of that stuff today in the bumps. So that's about it. I'll get this thing out in the water and see what we can do. Per Derek's advice, I've gone to the northern side of Green Point, try and launch over here, get out to some bumps, and then do the old walk of shame back up the beach and rinse and repeat. See how long I last before I go and get the wing. Now it should be a bit of fun. Looking forward to it. Let's go. Now to deliver on my promise from last episode. So let's dive deeper into dropping your weight through the top of your paddle. Before this session, I was making the mistake of dragging the paddle with my bottom hand, which really overworked one shoulder. But the correction I needed was simple, balancing the effort across both shoulders by stacking them. For me, that meant rotating my upper body so my chest wasn't facing the water but more sideways. The real detail here is the arm positioning. The bottom arm stretches out long, but that top arm, you want to keep a solid bend, bringing the paddle closer to your head. This allows you to plant the paddle further ahead of the board's nose, and once it's planted, you've got a strong base to press your weight through the top of the paddle. With this change of form, I really started feeling the paddle plant in the water instead of dragging it. It was like I was pulling myself past the paddle, which was a very different sensation. Done my first little run. No dice on getting up on the foil, but good bit of fun to practice being in the bumps. And yeah, starting to get the board to send it down bumps, which is good. Yeah, now just for the probably 1.5k walk back upwind. It's part of the fun. But yeah, just got to put my time in, and then once we get these first a few little runs out of the way, start playing the logistics game and planning some proper downwinders so that I'm not commuting back and forward. Anyway, I'll get walking and then get back out for another little run before the sun goes down. Let's interrupt quickly with a quick visual of the difference between my paddling technique. So what I was doing before I had that session with Tom was I had both arms sort of outstretched and the bottom arm was pulling through the water, and the top arm was only really following a little bit. So it was really a lot of like rowing this bottom arm, and obviously that worked this shoulder a lot more. The adjustment came from, instead of being like this top arm had a bit of a bend to it, and that wrist sort of went on top of the paddle, and then we sort of work together to pull through. So when we're saying put all your weight through the top of the paddle, it's both arms moving together. And the beauty of this is, if you think about the paddle, when both arms are outstretched, you're sort of moving the paddle from here to over there. Whereas if you think about this is the bottom of the paddle, that's the top of the paddle, you bring that top hand close to your head, but this bottom arm, which is planted about here on your paddle, is still going out. So now you've got all this extra reach. You've got so much more reach than if you were to just move the paddle a little bit to the right. So more like this as opposed to that. Getting that paddle beyond the nose of the board or to the nose of the board was really important, and it will set you up perfectly for those really high cadence, quick turnover paddles from nose to toes, as Tom and James Casey have mentioned. A little caveat I want to point out is, obviously I'm learning at the same time that you guys are learning as well. If you want the absolute latest and greatest in downwind knowledge from someone that's got many, many, many years of paddling experience, go check out the Casey Club. For me, I think it's just really important to get both perspectives. Someone that's learning maybe a couple sessions ahead of you, who can really relate to what you're going through, and then the experts that can really pick up on those big flaws and get you heading down the correct path, which is what Tom did for me, and I'm super grateful for. Okay, back to the on-water footage.
Second lap done. It was more successful. We got progress. Had a few waves of action, managed to paddle down and had the foil kick in, so I think probably got one more run in me. It's going to be a pretty tired run, but see if we can make any of the magic happen. I think that very last paddle up I tried, I was standing further back and it felt better. This last run I'll just focus on foot placement, see if that'll help. Okay, time to wander back up. Okay, start of the third run, let's go. Might try and sneak out a bit further, get some bigger bumps. Let's go.
Hey, continuing the voiceover over this on-water footage, another important adjustment was my stance. At the beginning of the session, I was compensating by leaning forward by pushing my hips back. I thought that the squat stance would help with pumping, but I was wrong. It was like pedaling a bike with no chain, just lots of effort and no result. The fix? Standing further back on the board than feels comfortable and using a slightly wider stance. And here's a cool tip. Sinking the tail just a bit helps in the bumps, as the wave grabs the tail and pushes you forward. With this stance, I could finally shift weight smoothly between my feet. When I plant the paddle, the weight transfers to my front foot, and as I pull past the paddle, I can adjust my weight as needed.
Third little run done. Probably not as successful as the second last one. Yeah, just a bit more fatigue going into this last run. The very first couple of waves that I tried to pump onto up the top near Green Point were really good. And then everything after that, I think I was just too buggered. So found the limit for the day, and I guess increasing the endurance as well. So each session's going to get better each time. Anyway, these parts are starting to look real nasty, so I'm going to make a mercy dash back to the car, and then I'll do a little debrief in the car.
So to wrap it up, rotate your chest to stack your shoulders, reach with that bottom arm, keep your top hand close to the head, plant the paddle, and drive through with your top arm. Now we've covered some of the nuances of last episode's cues. Let's find out what Lockie learnt today in this session.
Move that out of the way.
Okay, so debrief. I was out for, what do we say, about an hour and a half. I did 3 laps, probably around 1.3 Ks maybe each lap. Maybe about a kilometre. I don't know, I have to check the GPS when I get back. So it was a northerly, it was blowing sort of 15 to 20, maybe the odd gust quite a bit higher than that. So like our usual sort of strong northerlies here in Melbourne. Had a lot of fun and definitely starting to stack the progress. Yeah, like starting to stack the progress from the flat water sessions that I've been having. So that was sort of my first proper session in some real bumps. It was really fun, in saying that I didn't foil at all, which is kind of funny. Like I think just the learning curve process, I don't know, I just really enjoy learning something new. So that's been really great. The key learnings for today were sort of back foot position, I guess both foot positions really, but I found that I could sort of widen my stance a little bit more than what I was having it at, and then with a slightly wider stance and slightly further back than what I've been practicing in paddle ups, it just worked a bit better. As the piece of chop or the bump behind me sort of caught the tail of the board with a bit more weight further back, it felt like the tail was getting pushed forward by the bump as it sort of caught up with the board. So that was really cool. And then just trying to be really accurate with technique as much as possible. So just concentrating on that nose to toes paddle stroke, really stacking my shoulders as well, and trying to get more weight through the top hand is sort of the things that Tom helped me out with the other day when we had our little practice session together. So that was really helpful, and it really carried across today. So another shout out to Tom for helping out with that. I think the 1 kilometer sort of laps, I guess, whatever you want to call them, was really spot on for me at my fitness level. And just having the ability to come in whenever you want as well. So like picking a location where there's plenty of beach and you can just land on the beach wherever it is and not be too far away from the shoreline when you want to get pulled in. I think the only mistake I sort of made, I guess if you could call it a mistake, was just on my first run I went a bit further out, so I had to come a bit, I had to paddle further in, sort of cross the wind to get back to the beach. So in an ideal world you'd sort of just go downwind and land on the beach, but because the wind was sort of parallel to the shoreline, I had to go out as much as I felt comfortable, go downwind, and then cut back across. So if you have the option for a location that allows that, and it's probably a better way to go. But for me that was that was sort of my only option, so went with that. Another thing I wanted to touch on was where I'm up to right now. So I'm at the point where I could paddle on a bump today. As the foil engaged, it just felt a bit unnatural for me as someone that was someone that has only winged before and hasn't really foiled without something to balance on. I think as the foil engaged, it sort of just bucked me off, and also just not being super used to a bigger foil as well. So potentially I might revisit the option of winging with the bigger foil on this board, just to sort of isolate that one variable of learning the foot pressure with the foil. And when winging, I'll concentrate on not leaning on the wing as much and just trying to essentially pump foil with an assist, like with something to balance on when I need it. So that was really good. And I guess to wrap things up, a quick little summary of the steps I've taken so far. It's been, my first video was winging with the big foil on the small wing board just to get used to the foil, and then I went out on the downwind board with a foil that I was accustomed to, or a foil that I was used to. So I went out on the Eagle 690, and then since then it's just been a bunch of flat water paddling just to learn technique. And then today being the first session in bumps. So that's sort of the progression so far. And next steps is just more time and maybe going out in the wing. So, but that's about it for me for this one. Hopefully score some more sessions as we roll into the weekend. And probably get back out on the wing at some point too, as the learning curve starts to get a little bit flatter. But at the moment I'm just enjoying the rapid progression, I guess, as much as you can call it rapid. So really enjoying it. Hope you guys are getting something out of following this journey as well. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.